An already massive recruiting weekend at Miami just got even bigger. The top receiver in America is going to be in Coral Gables.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC and writer for Canes County at Rivals. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On this episode of Locked On Canes, we've got to revisit these anonymous ACC coaches talking trash about Miami. We're going to talk about Miami's coaching staff. Has Cristobal been able to assemble the best staff perhaps in decades at Miami? But we got to open up with some recruiting here as the top receiver in the class, Tristan Keys out of Mississippi, who is verbally committed to LSU, but this will be his third trip to South Florida this year already, 2025, as Tristan Keys has just added a Miami official visit. Got so much to get to here on a Truth Teller Tuesday.
Yes, we do.
Truth Teller himself, Bruce Warner, joins us. So, Bruce, Kevin Beard is going whale hunting. He's going harpooning this summer. Tristan Keys is going to visit this weekend. Miami's very much after Calvin Russell from Miami Northwestern, another five-star receiver. We've got to land at least one of these guys this year, right?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure he's whale hunting. It's more like a great white shark. That's what we want. We want the big one. That's what we want. Or one of those orcas, the big ones that could destroy these sharks. Anyway, yeah, look, there's so much going on. You mentioned these anonymous coaches' comments and all the anger about Miami spending NIL money. But yeah, we need to get Russell or Keys. I don't think we're going to get both. I want to get Collegier. I want Collegier. I'm pretty sure I'm not saying anything far-fetched because everybody else is predicting that Cannon Pickett is coming here, and I think he will be here. But, yeah, it's a big weekend for Miami, and the next couple of weekends is important for us because we got to get that big wide receiver that we've been talking about for a long time. I mean, Josh Moore may be that guy, but we don't know yet, and you still want to get all these blue-chip guys.
A couple things. I think about a conversation that we had on this show last week with Gio Million where we talked about how, hey, like, official visits can evolve. Those visit lists can get bigger like a few days before the weekend. Sometimes players will decide not to visit a few days before. So things can be fluid. And yeah, first reported this morning. I saw it first on Rivals. I know On3 and 24/7 Sports have also reported it that the top wide receiver in the class of 2026, five-star standout Tristan Keys out of Hattiesburg, Mississippi, which is going to be where the Miami baseball team is this weekend. Keys 6'2.5", 180-pound, absolute game wrecker of an outside receiver. And Bruce, you want to talk about multi-talented? He's a football star. He's also a basketball star and a track and field star. So you're talking.
I was going to say that. I was going to say maybe the basketball coach will offer him too. We'll have 11, but they'll have 12 guys that can play both sports.
Yeah. Well, and also a good point. I think it was either Stephen Wagner or Zuby Charles at Kane Sport who made this point that like if Jay Lucas does give roster spots to some of these guys like Calvin Russell and Jalen Lopez, I don't know if Tristan Keys wants to play basketball.
Right.
Well, but if he does give roster spots to some of these guys, their scholarships are going to be for football. So it's like free roster spots that to be giving out.
I think that's what happened with Santana Moss. He was a track guy. Bush brought him in as a track guy, Anyway, so look, I'm excited about that. I don't listen, I do these things and I say what I think is the truth, despite some of the remarks. But you know what? I don't know if this guy Keys really wants to come here. Is he looking to jack up NIL money? He knows what Cantwell got or allegedly got. So I don't know. These guys now have agents. So I'm hoping he has a true interest in Miami and not using it to bolster what LSU is offering him to. Oh, he may go to Miami now. That's part of this game involving the NIL and the agents. So I'm not going to get too excited. If we get him, that would be great. I really want Calvin Russell. I don't understand why there's another guy that was predicting where these guys were going to go, and he was not predicted to go to Miami, which is shocking. Why on earth would he go to Syracuse? What's so great about them? What have they ever? Not that we've won anything. Not that we've won anything. But what's so great about playing in Syracuse?
Well, they beat us.
This is the team on the rise, not them.
Yeah.
I mean, they're better coached. He's okay, but where are they going?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. To me, it's like it's hard to think that a South Florida player would leave the area to go to Syracuse. Like you see players leave the area sometimes to go to Florida, Florida State, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State. But
Ohio State, right? I would get that. A kid that this good, but there, it makes no sense. I still think we have a really. Didn't Millian say he thinks we have a good shot at him too?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Like you mentioned,
and Derrek Cooper for a matter, and that could be sooner than later.
Derrek Cooper is also visiting this weekend. But going back to something you said about Tristen Keys, like again, like I'm not saying Miami's the favorite. LSU is obviously the favorite. They have his verbal commitment. But if you ask, does he really have legitimate interest in Miami? I'm going to say the answer is absolutely yes, because, okay, the visit he has coming up this weekend is an OV, which means official visit. The school pays for it. But, Bruce, he's come on his dime multiple times for unofficial visits. So I would think the interest is legitimate. Now, obviously, it's hard to flip players from LSU. We tried that last year with DJ Pickett. It didn't work out. And Miami's not the only school that's really trying hard to flip him. There's been some smoke for Tennessee. Ole Miss is the home state school for Tristan Keys. Alabama, Auburn have been in the mix. So, like, flipping him would be difficult enough. And then there's other schools in the SEC. It's basically Miami versus the entire SEC for this guy.
Well, would you like to see the kid come here this weekend and on Sunday evening announce that he's decommitting from LSU? Now, he might not say Miami, but I think if he does that and he opens up the door for this, I think we're in much better shape. I think it would mean that he obviously had some interest serious in Miami. Yeah, but we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know if he would do that, but again, if I'm his agent and you open it up, those numbers are going higher and higher and higher, not lower. That's for sure.
For sure. Well, we'll talk when we come back about some other big-time players. Tristan Keys, by the way, is not the only 5-star player who's going to be on campus this weekend. He's also not the only wide receiver who's going to be visiting Miami this weekend for the first big weekend of OVs. You want to keep it locked right here. We got the Truth Teller with us on a Truth Teller Tuesday right here on Locked On Canes. Do you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over all of your finances. And guys, Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It is that, but it's also a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, guys, I realized areas like food delivery and streaming services. I was subscribed to like every streaming service on the planet, how much I was overspending on stuff. Now I budget smarter and I save more. And you get all in one convenience with Monarch Money. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use our code LockedOnCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LockedOnCollege for half off your first year. Thank you for making this Truth Teller Tuesday of Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. So, Bruce, the big addition to this official visit weekend at Miami is 5-star receiver Tristan Keys. Right. Miami also has 5-star running back Derrek Cooper on campus this weekend. Now, Coop, this one, you talk about Calvin Russell, how much we want him. Derrek Cooper feels like a must-get to me for every possible reason. Chaminade, you want that pipeline to continue to Miami. You don't want the top local player to leave the area and go somewhere out of state. Georgia is probably his other top option. Miami's got to get this one done.
Yeah. And I think they will. I think there's a better shot at him at this point in time than Russell, who seems to be infatuated with Syracuse and their head coach. I still don't know why. But I think Cooper's the guy we have to get. I agree with that. Actually, I'll amend that. I think we need to get Calvin Russell too, because he's a Northwestern guy. Why should he leave? Both of them.
Yeah.
I want both. I'm
Yeah.
greedy. I want both of them. That's what I want. Both of them. And I want Colajay. I obviously want Cannon Pickett for multiple reasons. Obviously, I'm friends with his father. And whoever else we can get. I think we're leading for this tight end, Briggs, supposedly, or
Israel
he may
Briggs.
even be.
Yeah.
So again, Mario's doing a hell of a job. And we'll get to this later on, but a lot of people are saying it's only because of money. The same thing with Cantwell, only because of money. I just don't understand it, except there's still, and we got a lot of comments last week after we had Bryant on the show about the hatred for this school. It still exists. And it really still will. And I guess it will always be us against the world, because people hate our guts because there's an opinion on us. Do you think anybody does this for the Gators? Nobody cares. As much as I fight with my friends that are Gators, not that they should be my friends, but, it's like, who cares about them? They're not a national name. Florida State was for a while. Now they're, but Miami? Oh, wow. It's anything that happens, whether it's somebody gets arrested, get rid of the program. Too much money spent on these kids. Who's evaluating them? Throwing around numbers that don't even exist. Carson Beck still getting thrown under the bus. I mean, when is this going to stop? But you know what? I'll stop it all right now. What have we won in the last 20 years? Zip. Have we won the ACC title? No. Have we played for the title? Once. Clemson. We got smoked in that game.
Yeah, we did.
So we need to win on the field, which is what I've been saying. And all our listeners and commenters are saying the same thing. We got to win. We have to win. And it starts with Notre Dame. We got to beat Notre Dame and set the tone for the rest of the year. That's what has to happen, because if we lose to them, after all the money we spent, the national pundits are going to say they're not that good. He can't coach, and talent be damned. They're just not going to win anything. And that, right? Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. But
we got to shut people up. We got to win.
Sure. Well, and how to win? Do we have now, Bruce, the best collection of coaches we've had in a long time? Tell the people what you were saying to me when we were talking at the end of last week about Miami staff.
Well, since Butch left, and the first year or two that Coker was here, they were pretty good, although those were Butch's players. But then when they fired Artie Keogh and Donnie Solinger, both of them, they're my buddies. They've been on. Well, we tried to get Artie on. It really started to go downhill. Randy had no budget whatsoever to hire coaches. None. Golden brought in D'Onofrio and never changed the defense and never got rid of him. To me, he was sitting on a gold mine. Had he gotten some better defensive help and changed it around, he might still be here, because the offense was pretty darn good. Rick came in, but his career was pretty much on the downslide anyway. Manny comes here, no coaching experience. Yeah, he was okay in the offseason, but they still didn't win anything. And now here's Mario, who has taken his program and he brought it to this level. Now there's a chance for them to not only knock on the door, but knock the door down. They've got to win the ACC this year. To me, I look at it with Florida and Notre Dame being non-ACC games. There's no reason for them to not be in a title game, probably against Clemson. And if they could beat Clemson, they're the ACC champs. They're on their way. But we're a long way from that. But the coaching staff, I love what they've done. I love Damian Lewis, and the inside to me is a significant upgrade. Significant. Plus, he's younger and he relates to these guys.
Yeah, and he's a Cane, and so he knows what it was like when Miami was pumping out a championship caliber product.
Right, and the linebacker coach, who's our defensive coordinator, and the DB coaches he's brought in, and the philosophy. Again, you could have these same guys, but if they were doing last year's defense, I don't know if it would matter that much. And so people always say scheme, schmeme. Yeah, scheme means a lot. It means a lot. And with the talent they have and with the coaching staff they have, which I think is the best since Butch was here, I expect them to not do what they did last year, which is fall flat on their faces. I expect them to play better. I expect more turnovers, more takeaways, and a hell of a lot more sacks. And I believe that. I believe if they play the way I'm expecting them to play, like they did back when they were kicking everybody's butt, I think you'll see a better defense to go along with it, a very good offense, not as prolific as last year, I don't think, because of Cam's magic. But I think they're going to be very tough to beat, really tough to beat. My only concern, this is not negative, but I brought this up 1,001 times. These defensive guys have not played one down as a unit together, not one down. So, you're going to have 2 new starters in the interior, Scott and Blay, new starters. You'll have a bunch of new guys in the secondary, a linebacker or 2 that are new. So, and Brown didn't play much last year at all. He's going to probably, he may be the nickel, right? So, so the point is that I'm hoping that their practices make them better. As Mario says, iron sharpens iron. I hope so. Because when they play Notre Dame, that's an experienced football team with a defense is supposed to be pretty good.
I think it, and I look at, and you're right on the coaches, and so the new coaches on the defense, Jason Taylor is the only one who's back from the staff last year. You got Corey Heatherman coordinating the defense and coaching the linebackers. Our guy Damian Lewis coaching the defensive tackles. Zach Etheridge and Will Harris coaching the defensive backs. And some of those players, Bruce, you're right. We're going to be seeing them playing together for the first time.
Great.
Gelling as a unit is so important, but so many clear upgrades made. I think Xavier Lucas is going to become a star here as a lockdown corner.
Yeah.
I think Zechariah Poyser has a chance to be a star at safety. And I'm so excited about Mohamed Touré at linebacker. We've talked about him a lot. Of course, there's going to be question marks with him coming off an injury that cost him his entire 2024 season.
Yeah.
He's finishing his recovery from the ACL, but he's turning heads in off-season workouts, Bruce. I talked about it yesterday.
Yeah, I know. I watched that video. You talked about it yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like he has any ill effects from this. But you know what else I think is important? As I mentioned that I'm concerned about the lack of continuity. The defense is simpler now. It's almost like when they break the huddle, they say, kill. That's the word. Kill them. Let's go kill these guys. Go after them. Stop thinking and stunting and running around. And for what? And I don't think we're going to see as many guys out of position. I think you're going to see the other team's offense have much less time to throw the ball. My goodness, last year, some of these guys could read a dictionary and still have time to throw.
They'd be at the Z's.
Not that anybody even looks at a dictionary anymore. They Google it. But you know what I'm saying. I expect the defense to just be better because of the way they're going to play it. And I don't want us being dictated to. I'm sick and tired of that. Don't you want to see the ball get snapped and they have to make adjustments?
Yeah.
And all those busted plays. You and I last year spent more time on the phone cursing than we did actually watching the game. I couldn't stop cursing the whole season. Thank God I didn't throw my remote through my 85-inch screen TV because I'd have to go out and buy another one. But I was close.
I don't want to do that.
I was close. Yeah, it was tough. It was a tough year to
watch.
Close.
I was close a few times with mine. And it's a good thing that the shows that we did during last season, some of these were not like, live, you and me on the phone. We would have lost our clean rating. I would have been fired several times. Like the conversations we had got pretty ugly there. And what do you, so on the offensive staff, Bruce, I'm happy that we achieved full continuity, right? Because there were times we were a little bit worried about, hey, is Kevin Beard maybe going to leave? Is he getting an offer from an NFL team? We weren't really positive at the end of last season. Is Shannon Dawson going to be back? You got your quarterbacks coach, your offensive coordinator. The entire offensive staff is back from last year, including Matt Merritt, Cody Woodall. Obviously, Alex Mirabal is back. I think it's important on the defensive side. They needed to make changes because that unit let us down last year. On the offensive side, I think continuity was as important.
Who's in charge of special teams? There might not be a special teams coach designated, but that's an area that they must improve. That was something that Jimmy always harped on.
It's handled by analysts. Like I can't. Someone's going to remember his name, but we brought back a former long snapper of Miami's from years ago, who's like a special teams analyst now. So it's handled by analysts, the special team staff.
Just get on the horn, call Tremaine Mack in Seattle and make him be the special teams coach.
Oh yeah.
He might
Yeah,
even be listening to this because he can't be because it's
might.
not live, but he always watches the
Right.
show. He tells me all the time, So all good. All
Yeah,
good.
I'll go. Well, let's talk when we come back because I know Bruce has a few things to say about this. Anonymous ACC coaches shared their thoughts. The gloves came off and they shared their thoughts on Mario Cristobal in Miami. And spoiler alert, it's all about this.
Ah.
It is all about the money.
But those aren't hundreds. Those are probably ones. No,
Those were ones. Yeah.
Were they ones or the 20?
They were ones and fives, maybe.
That ain't gonna
making
do
it rain.
friend.
Was making it rain. You want to keep it locked right here? We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Thank you so much for making us your first listen today. For your next listen, make sure you check out the portal. Brian Smith does an incredible job taking you through all things NIL. He's making it rain, dollar bills on the Portal podcast, all things recruiting, all things transfer portal. The Portal show is available free wherever you get your podcasts and available free on YouTube. All right. So Bruce, let me reset here for the folks who either forgot or they didn't watch yesterday's show. Athlon Sports, and I enjoyed their magazine. Phil Steele, Athlon Sports. I buy those usually at the airport when I take a trip every summer. I don't know if it's already going to be available this weekend. At some point, I got to buy the Athlon magazine, but they put out some previews here. They talk to anonymous coaches from every conference. And so from the ACC, here's what anonymous coaches are saying about Miami. Comment number one. Is Carson Beck worth all that money? No one really knows right now, but that's the question you have to ask. Comment money? Number two.
Did they know how much he got that they're making comments like that? All right, go ahead.
The rumors get bigger every time somebody reports. It was like $4 million. Now it's like he's making apparently $45 million. He's got like shares in Tesla stock now. He's got shares. He's the vice president of the University of Miami now. The numbers keep getting bigger. All these comments about money, Bruce. Another one was, I think there's a bigger question here on how and why they spend what they do on the guys they pick. It's sort of like a Dodgers or Yankees mindset, spending on top-end recruits and portal guys and not really a team-focused culture. You're still in Florida. You still have to prioritize the high schools, and they've done that in NIL. And, Bruce, I ranted on it yesterday. I found that comment to be so insulting because the implication is that Miami is just throwing out money for whoever wants it. Like, oh, you've got 4 stars, 5 stars here. I'll pay you whatever you want. Come here. I know how hard Mario Cristobal and his staff work to not only find good players, but find the right types of human beings, smart, diligent, dedicated, alphas, love football. Like will Miami sometimes win bidding wars for guys that they identify as top targets? Sure. That's how you win recruiting battles in this day and age. But the implication that they're just blindly throwing out money, I find it to be so insulting to the hard work that this staff does in recruiting certain types of young men.
Well, yeah, I called you yesterday and I talked about this with you. First of all, we haven't won anything. I said that a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
So no matter what we spend, we haven't done a damn thing yet. And I think this is the big year. Was Cam Ward worth whatever he got? I don't know what he got. Was Martinez eventually worth it with the 1,000 yards he had last year? They spent money on players that they thought they need. This team is still building. Nothing that Mario is doing is illegal. These kids have agents coming out of high school. So you're dealing with something that you've never dealt with before. It's not just about what you've done. Now, if Jackson Cantwell can go on and Twitter and whatever and make statements on YouTube that he came to Miami not because of money, but because of the coaching staff and the family atmosphere. Yeah, the money helps, but it's not just because of the money. Listen to the kid. The kid said he's coming here not because of all this other stuff that you guys are babbling about. Now, were these coaches or like assistants making these comments?
It could be assistants. They don't they're not necessarily head coaches. They could be assistants, coordinators, whatever.
Okay. But everybody makes a decision. So Clemson really doesn't spend much money in there, and they've got a great recruiting reputation. They get guys because they have a history of putting guys in the NFL. What about Miami? Even though they're not, the top team in the ACC, they continuously put guys into the National Football League. Guys weren't even necessarily that great here, but much better in the NFL. Look at Sam Shields. That was a while ago, but still, there's a ton. Jonathan Feliciano, was he a superstar? He played in the league for years. There's guys out there that Miami has built, and now they're getting coached up better, I believe. And so it's not about the money. Your team has the same chance to do what Miami's doing. Maybe you're not doing it right. Maybe your coaching staff isn't so great. Maybe people don't want to play at Wake Forest or some of these other schools. I don't know, and I don't care. But some of these comments that are just based on money are absurd. Just absurd. But again, it's not Miami cannot shut anybody up until we start winning. I mean, winning big games, not choking and things like that. Otherwise, they're not wrong.
Yeah. Well, I also find it funny that, Miami they can shut them up if they start winning. But even though Miami's not won anything in more than 20 years, they still don't shut up. It's like I love it. I love this obsession that everybody has with Miami. When Michigan pays, allegedly north of 12 million for a high school quarterback.
Yep.
I don't hear people talking about Michigan buying players, but anytime Miami's involved in anybody, that's what it's always about for me. So Bruce, I look forward to hopefully getting the opportunity to shut people up because, like you, I realize Miami has not won anything significant since 2001.
Right. Here's my comment. Here's my comment about the money, though.
Yeah.
We mentioned it 8 minutes ago or whatever it was. Mario changed the coaching staff on the defensive side of the ball. That has nothing to do with NIL money. And if the defense is better this year, it's not because we got more money spent on kids. It's partly that we got better players that we needed badly, especially in the secondary, and B, because the coaching staff and their philosophy has changed. So now our team is much better on both sides of the ball. That's why if we beat Notre Dame and Florida and all these other teams, which I think we're going to do, and we wind up with a Calvin Russell and a Derrek Cooper and some of these and a College, I don't think it's just because it's money. It's just a stupid comment. It's jealousy. It's hatred. It's animosity towards this team and this program, and it gives no credibility whatsoever to Mario and this staff, and that is total bull.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And I think another important thing that recruits look at, by the way, is the coach who's recruiting me going to be here for a long time. And, Mario's not on any sort of hot seat. He's got job security. Obviously there are concerns about guys like Mike Norvell at Florida State coming off of 2-10. The seat's going to get warm for him really quick. So that's another thing, stability. And especially for an offensive lineman, for Jackson Cantwell, Mario Cristobal and Alex Mirabal are not going anywhere.
Right, anywhere.
If I come to Miami, they're going to see through my entire development and recruitment. That's another important factor for these players.
Yeah, and I agree with that. So, it's frustrating. It's frustrating because we're still not winning. 9-0 turns out to be 10-3. 21-point lead against Syracuse turns out to be a loss. Wasn't it? It was 21-0.
21-0.
They hadn't done a thing until they just went on this roll, and we couldn't stop them. And in all the other games, we got bailed out because of Cam Ward. But at the end of that game, there was a fumble by Restrepo. There was some mistakes being made. Yeah. Maybe even Ward fumbled. I don't remember, but that was just
Ward in the Georgia Tech game. Ward fumbled. In the Syracuse game, it was Restrepo.
Restrepo, yeah. But you know what? I just hope all that goes away. We've got to win.
Yeah,
I expect us to win, and we are going to win. Meanwhile, I'm working on a few things we talked about. Getting multiple people on the show. So I'm working on getting 3 quarterbacks to come on one day. Then we'll get a couple of receivers one day because everybody they wanted like Santana and they want this and that. I'm just trying to get like Bernie, Gino, and Jacory will come on. I'll get those 3 guys, and then a different thing. Somebody wanted me to try to get Andre Johnson. I can reach out to him. Santana, I'm working on that, so we can get 2 or 3 receivers. That'll be good. And we'll just go from there.
I love that. I love it. And by the way, good news for the folks out there, because I mentioned Miami's got this huge recruiting weekend this weekend with Tristen Keys on campus, Derrek Cooper, 4-star receiver Samorian Wingo, 4-star receiver Messiah Hampton, 4-star defensive lineman Keyshawn Stansel, 4-star defensive lineman Lamar Brown. People know that when Donno goes on trips, good things happen in recruiting, that we only seem to land big time players when I'm out of town somewhere. I'm going to be in Europe this weekend, Bruce. So the recruits are going to be flying in. Like we're going to get all these guys.
That's good. And maybe when's the next big recruiting weekend? Because I'll pay for you to go to the moon. I don't care.
Well, I'm going to be doing shows from over there actually.
Oh, you are.
So I'll be in Europe for like a month. So we're going to land. Miami's going to have the #1 class by the time I come back.
I hope so. And if that works, don't come back.
I won't. I'll take up. I do have an EU passport. I have an Italian passport, so I can stay over there.
Okay.
Not breaking any laws. Not breaking any laws being over there. I appreciate everyone for tuning in. We always appreciate the Truth Teller for bringing it strong on another Truth Teller Tuesday. I am Alex Donno. Follow us on X. Follow me at Alex Donno. Follow the show at Locked On Canes. Become a Locked On Canes insider. Click the link in the show description below. And we'll talk to you again tomorrow on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.